Hey everybody, welcome back to Gillen's Garage. And on today's episode, a long overdue van update. As you can see behind me, I got the van back up on the rack and I got the frame underneath it. And so I'm going to show you what I've been working on lately. So here we go. All right, well, we might as well start up here on the front with the biggest thing or highest investment I have made lately is the newly rebuilt 5.9 Cummins. I may have made a couple of posts or not, but when we took the head off, number 6 cylinder was melted, and so went ahead and did a full rebuild. So with that, Hamilton cam, all new pistons from power-driven diesel, all the bearings in the seal kit, and so on and so forth. The head was decked, and of course, the injector pump was... the one rack was stuck. So still got to spend a little money and get the injector pump rebuilt, but I'll go ahead and jump over to the other side and show you some of the exciting stuff I got going on that side. All right, so here we got a Steed Speed. I'd call this the Cummins manifold. They call it the commercial RV motorhome 12 valve manifold, but I mean, it's perfect for a Ford because it sets that right back. As you can see, clearance, let's get that to focus in. Yeah, clearance on the wastegate actuator is a little close. There's several videos out there where people talk about modifying where this bracket mounts. You got to slot the lower bolt hole. I don't know if I can, nah, I can't really even show you that. But you got to slot the lower hole on this bracket to get it to roll down to clear the edge of the block. So talking about the turbo, this is a K27, and so it should be good for that 400, maybe 450 horse. I'm not looking for power as much as I am fuel efficiency. So this manifold being one of the best out there, it should decrease EGTs and help things out there. So behind that, got the transmission in place. Behind this is a Valair double disc quiet clutch setup because I really don't want that chatter with the double disc. But because we're going to be making maybe they're around that 400 horse or maybe a little bit more, figured I'd go with a heavier clutch than a single disc. So transmission was completely gone through. This has a heavier third gear, that cryogenically frozen third gear, and the latest update of the 5th gear nut. I got the 241 DHD set up and the gear fender all installed. I got the drive shaft. I just got to make a measurement for that and get it taken care of. Same with the front. I do have a Dodge one that I'm hoping I can get this larger. The Dodge uses this larger center flange that I need to get the heavier CV. I'll tell you what, I'll just show you. All right, so here's the 2 drive shafts. This is the Ford Super Duty drive shaft, and this would be the Dodge drive shaft. Now, if you notice, this is a much beefier double cardan U-joint versus the Dodge. It's not quite as beefy. The U-joints themselves are smaller. So I'm hoping that they can get this double cardan with this flange instead of this flange using the larger U-joints. So kind of nerdy thing that I'd like to get taken care of. I'd kind of rather use the heavier U-joint because why not? So I'm going to see if the drive shaft guys can get that ironed out for me. All right, while I was up here at the engine, I thought I'd show you something else that I did. So right here are obviously the engine mounts. Now, if you notice, these are a little bit different than the stock DCS mounts that came with this kit that I got for the 92 to 96 Econoline van that I slightly modified, but either way. So according to the internet, according to a lot of forums and Facebook discussions, The guys say about the durometer of these bushings being a little bit soft, and the longevity of these bushings not being there. So a lot of people have gotten these, which is a Caterpillar part for a C15 Cat engine. So these are going to be the front, what I would call the front saddle mounts on the front of the engine that sit on the front cross member. There would be 2 of these to support the front of the engine. So I did have to modify them slightly. This is not bolted down. So when I bolt that down, you can see I can pull it out. When I bolt that down, it'll suck it down fast. Basically, the only thing that I had to do to these was cut a little bit. They had like a tapered edge on this that made it just a trifle too long for this. Their cradle must be a little, or their mount must be a little bit thicker than this. This, I believe, is 3/8. Maybe theirs is 1/2 inch. But either way, I just had to cut that little tapered edge off so that they seat down nicely. I went ahead and used the washers from the DCS mount to go on these. And the only other thing I had to do was I had this piece of DOM tubing. I just had to get these cut and machined squarely to make nice filler washers versus the DCS ones. So that really worked out nicely. So I'm anxious to see how well these last in comparison to these and give some people some feedback. If you want to know what these are, I can shoot me a comment. I can tag the listing for those if anybody would like to buy those. All right, so as part of the continuing to get this van back together, the one thing I've been working on is a fuel mount or fuel filter set up. And I got this dual filter. These are Cummins mounts. Went ahead and made that plate, drilled it, and got it set up for some stainless steel fuel lines. I have to figure out exactly where I want it, drill the frame, and get that mounted, and start running fuel lines. But to go back here to the back, I'll give you an update on what I'm working on here. Again, if you guys have seen, this is the F26E tank. I've had some discussions on this cross member that I installed to mount it separately from the van body. This would be how it would be in a pickup truck. These are actually the upper straps off a pickup, and the lower straps are the same off the same Ford Series. So anyhow, some of the things I'm doing, just a little shout out here. I bought these, but this Boyd's Welding custom fuel tanks, they sold me these 4 bungs, I don't know, for like a little over $8, free shipping. So thought that was a pretty good deal. Just kind of a stamped item that's then threaded. But what I'm going to do here is I'm going to get this TIG welded in place of the old rollover valve grommet, and then put a breather connection here that will move the breather to the highest most point in the tank for faster fill-ups, and I'll be able to get that tank more full. Again, this filler neck has been modified inside. There's videos on that. I think I've talked about extending it for the bigger tank, but this is a brand new diesel sending unit. Fuel lines will all work out. So some of the major work, as part of that, I'll just go to this. This is the original van filler neck, and the one modification that I've done is I had that 1/8 inch NPT bushing or collar welded in place for a breather. Obviously the caps are sealed, and because the rollover valve is eliminated, that the breather came off of that, I needed to put something in the system so it wouldn't draw a vacuum when the fuel pump came on and drew fuel out of the tank. You'd vacuum the tank down, so it needs a little bit of something to breathe. This is all tight, but this is just one of those like brass filters. Should keep a lot of the dirt out, and I did test it. It barely drips if you got water in it, so this thing should stay on all 4, but if you were to get it on its side, it should hardly leak at all, but God forbid, I don't want that to happen. So anyhow, the other thing I did is I did punch out the anti-siphon just because I wanted things to fill up as quickly as possible. I may end up putting like a welding like screen over this that's going to be very very little restriction, but still not be able to let somebody dip the tank or siphon out of this tank. The breather from the front tank and the rear tank will tee and meet up with this one. So again, it's coming to here to vent when you're filling, so it should fill quite quickly. So one of the other things I got going is this. This basically measures to 29 gallons, this rear tank. Now this fits in the extended portion of the van that is basically dead space. So I thought, well, what better way to utilize that space but to throw a auxiliary fuel tank. So what we're gonna do, and I don't have them with me, but for illustration's sake, we'll use this. I'm gonna put a 2-inch filler, half and half on the top, half into the side, with the like 3/4 inch breather coming off beside it, or 1/2 inch breather coming off beside it. And so they're gonna come out here. Obviously there's a cross member right here. That's why I have the body mounts. There's a body cross member that comes across. I'm gonna be about 1 inch below that there, which I'm gonna need some additional clearance, which is what this piece is for. But anyhow, those two are gonna come out here, and the fillers are gonna, I'm gonna make like a Y, right? Something kind of like the shape of my fingers there, that it's not like a T where it has to go around the corner. It should flow easier into the main tank, and then easier into the auxiliary tank to fill that. And then I'm gonna have a crossover. That's why I have a couple extra weld-in bungs. This bung will get welded, I'm thinking in the center of the bottom of this one. So it's protected by the center. It'll be on the bottom edge. I'll probably end up trimming this bottom lip off so that this can sit right at the bottom of the tank. Not too worried about sediment. I've got good filtration, so this sediment would have to travel from this tank to this tank, then into the system. So I got a filter on the filler deck, so I'm not terribly concerned either. So I want to get this as low as possible. So the one other part that, because trying to think about everything right here, let me see. Yeah, a check valve. So this check valve will be installed right off of this tank, so that if we get in a situation where I'm on a steep grade or something along those lines, that there's a direction flow, but it would actually sit in here like this, that it tilts, that thing's gonna stop and keep the fuel from running out of the front tank back into the rear tank. So that's the plan with the check valve. That'll sit as close, actually, I lie, it'll have the bung, and then a valve, and then this. I want that valve to be the first thing, so that if I have any issues, I can valve the tank off. So bung, valve, check valve, and then the connection hose back to this tank. Again, same on the aluminum bung that I'm gonna put here. I'm probably gonna end up putting a T, and I'll have a valve going to the passenger side with just like a 1/4 inch MPT diesel line, in case I ever want to run one of those diesel Chinese heaters. I can run the Chinese diesel heater off of the auxiliary tank. I can isolate it from the main tank and run all the fuel out of this tank with zero fear of not being able to leave for running all the fuel out of the van itself. So use this for auxiliary driving fuel or heating. You can get those Chinese hot water heaters. You could use this 29 gallons for, living. So that's what I'll do. I'll tee that off and then run a 1/2 inch line over to the main tank. And that 1/2 inch line should feed based upon fluid finding its own level. They should both equally go down together. And I'm hoping the combined volume between these two is 67 gallons. If I think I can get over 60 gallons of draw. I'm hoping I can get 63 63 or 64 gallons out of the 2 tanks, which should get me some pretty good distance on the road. So let me show you what this piece is for. So this piece is going to be for here. Now that's that body mount bolt that's right beside the tank. I am gonna have to clearance this one a little bit. So I just got some, I think this is 3-inch exhaust pipe. I'm gonna go ahead and cut this in half, maybe flatten it out a little bit to give me a little bit more spread than the 3-inch, but basically just gonna clearance this cross member out so that I have the clearance for that filler neck, or the filler connection, and the breather connection beside it. So, and I still think I should have the strength, but I got to get that done and then start cleaning up underneath here, spray this to protect it. One of the other things I did is, if you notice, you can see some spot weld that have been drilled out. This was the mounting brackets, you know, the mounting flanges, whatever, for the original tank. And I went ahead and got rid of those because why? You know, I don't need them. Actually, you can see how this one was spot welded and there was moisture and rust building up behind it. So another reason, and same here. You know, this is a spot where rust can build up. So I'm trying to eliminate any possibilities of rust and make this thing as solid as I can. So by eliminating these brackets, it only should make this thing better. All right, so I lowered the body down a little bit to show you what I've done here. This is the front filler door, right? There's the front, there's the axle opening, there's the rear for the diesel fuel. But since I don't need this one for fuel anymore, I went ahead and got this set up for the propane fill. So it's pretty simple. I tried to use as much of the existing mounting as possible. These are the original 3 mounting holes for the filler. This is the, what would you call that? The little plastic retainer that holds the fuel cap. It just would have locked down into that point. Had to drill that a little bit more for a bulkhead fitting. Went ahead and used a bulkhead fitting. This is obviously the little breather that you crack open, the bleed valve, when you're filling the propane. And so you crack that, make your connection, fill that, and then when it's full, close this, which actually, if I give a demonstration, you should be able to reach in with your left hand and operate that while that is filling. So I'm hoping that's gonna work out. I thought that was a pretty clean install. I'll go around the underside and show you the flex hoses here. But the angle should work, and this can be kind of bent a little bit if it needs to be in the future to make that connection for filling a little bit easier. So I'll go ahead and put this back up and show you the hoses. All right, so here's the connection. It's just that fitting that you saw on the top side, a threaded collar, and then this is what came with the propane kit with this remote filler. Same thing for this breather, a couple connections up there. Then you got these fittings that come down. So these are going to connect right to the propane tank. And man, why can't I get those to come into focus? There we go. They'll connect to the propane tank that will be right up there about where the gear vendor is. So I'll show you the tank again. Okay, this is the tank I had already modified for the van with this mounting bracket that you see here and the additional mounts that I modified on that side. But the other tank that I got had this remote setup. So I went ahead and took those off of the other tank and installed them on this tank, this being the breather. This valve will stay open the whole time, and this one obviously has no valve. The neat thing is, and I can't remember if I mentioned this before, but it's worth mentioning again. This is a sending unit, a remote sending unit to tell you how much fuel you have in it. Nice thing is it puts the ohms readings out on these too. So what's really cool is the fact that this setup and the Ford sending units use the same ohms range for fuel level. So I should be able to connect these two wires into the factory wiring for the front fuel gauge and be able to switch from propane to diesel fuel and check and see how many or how much I have in each tank. Now this tank is 17.9 gallons, and I think that's 100%. I think you can fill this to like 80 or 85%. So should have like 14 gallons or so of onboard propane once this is all set up. So I'm gonna finish cleaning this up and get that painted back up and get that installed before the body goes back on. So basically, one last thing I want to cover in this video, which I'm hoping you guys might be able to help me out with. All right, here we're talking about body mounts. Now, there's several videos out there of guys talking about doing body mounts on their newer 4th gen vans, and I can pretty much say that I think they use pretty much the same setup on the 3rd gen as the 4th gen. So the only thing that you can find on the internet is this bushing. This one I had a lot of trouble with. I ended up having to cut it, which I can buy this one. This is D5UA-1154FA. Now, this one is all the same except HA. You cannot find this one. So the question I have is, can I use all of these? Now, my assumption is, because this isn't drilled and relieved on the edges like this, that it's somewhat firmer. And these are just slightly softer. So if you guys follow the channel, you probably saw I did the body mounts on my F350, my 97. And those are those S&B silicone body mounts. So what I did find out in doing that is there is one body mount position that is a very similar mount to all of these, but no one can help me get those. I tried to see if I could just say, hey, can you give me 14 of that one body mount? No, we can't do that. I'm like, okay. So the only difference that I have found, and I forget if it's the furthest most mount, which I think it is on the crew cab. I think it's the furthest mount toward the back is the same as these, right? Except solid, but these are all the same dimensionally. On the F350, the diameter through the frame is 1.5 inches, whereas these are 1 inch 400 thousandths, so 100 thousandths smaller. So you'd have to ream the van holes out a little bit to get those silicone body mounts on. I mean, silicone body mounts I think would be sweet. I mean, these made it 30 years, but I hate to put these original ones back in it when I've done all this other work and I'd like to make improvements. So I don't know what to do. Now, what's interesting, I'll switch it back around and show you, because I had to go to the other van to confirm this on the location of those thicker body mounts. When I say thicker, I actually mean heavier durometer, or my assumption this is heavier. So the heavier durometer ones, and I had to, because I took these off and I forgot, the heavy durometer ones are right behind the driver's side seat is where the one was. It was not on this one, which I would have thought maybe it would have been, because this was closest to the original radius arm mount. You'd think you'd see the most shock at this location, but that's not how it was. The one that was right behind the driver's seat or below the back edge of the door had the heavier mount. Then moving back the frame, the one at the front of the fuel tank was the heavier, which I put them here so I wouldn't forget, and behind it. So, and that kind of makes sense, because this is probably takes a fair amount of load with the suspension behind the axle, so they want the most amount of shock absorption for the body right in this location here. Obviously the other van is not extended, so I assume that that one of these went back behind it. So I got to figure out what I'm going to do. I'm not interested in the whole hockey puck deal or anything like that. I did see that Daystar makes a body mount for the same trucks that's a polyurethane infused with Kevlar. Dang it. And so I thought about reaching out to Daystar to see if I could, if they were more apt to sending me some body mounts that are all the same off that same F350 mount. And then, let me see, where's a body mount? Yeah, right here. All I would have to do is figure out how to just open this hole up 1/100 of an inch. I don't think that's going to take away from the strength of the frame at all. Like the newer trucks have like a 2-inch opening. Obviously that is out. I wouldn't want to make that a 2-inch opening. But 100 thousandths of opening that up, I don't see that as an issue. So if you guys have any ideas on what to do with the body mounts, these actually don't look too bad. I wouldn't be afraid to use that one over again, but I can find these on eBay. Lots of these. They're not giving them away, but I can find the replacements. So I could replace every body mount with this firmer one, which I have maybe a better suspension, so that may be what I end up going with if I can't find any other solution. But I'm asking you guys, what do you guys think? What would you do? So let me know in the comments, shoot me a message. Let me know what you're thinking. All right, guys, well, that's the latest update on the van. I know it doesn't look like there's a lot, but it's a lot for me. Throwing money into the engine, that takes time and, more importantly, money. And so, like I said, this all comes out of the shop budget, which is hit or miss, selling stuff, trading stuff, doing whatever. And so that's why this is probably the slowest build on YouTube. Yeah, but that's all right. I really would like to have this thing done by this September or sooner for a fall trip to Montana, because this thing would be, well, the whole goal of this thing is to haul guys out west to go hunting, because vans are the best cross-country hunting rig ever. So I really would like to get this thing together. But again, it takes time and money. So, but the big goal for the next couple months is to get this body back on, because I still have a lot of fabrication stuff I need to get the water to air intercooler set up, a little bit of wiring, a little bit of body work on the van itself, not externally, but kind of on the floor, where there was an earlier video in this build that I talked about doing the cross members, or where the sheet metal meets the body cross members and moisture prone areas. There was some rust there, so I got to finish doing that. I bounce around a lot. I don't know, it's the ADHD or something, but I bounce around a lot just to keep myself moving and not get bored on one thing that I don't particularly like. So I'll shift gears and go do something else. So I need to get a new ball joint mount for the track bar and finish that up and finish the front sway bar. Still the leaf spring perches need welded back onto the axle, but I've been waiting till the body's back on and the weight's back in it to get the angle right. I do want to get the drive shafts, because I can set the angle close enough to get the measurement for the drive shafts, get that done, get everything tied up underneath, and move on. So that's where we're at, and I'm really trying to get things kick-started. And I have found that everybody's response and the Facebook groups and things is great motivation for me. So I did lose a little bit of motivation in getting this thing going, or back going again, though things were always moving, but not. I could have been doing stuff on the frame or the fuel system when the engine was getting rebuilt, instead of playing around doing other stuff or distracted. But anyhow, I have found that your guys' comments and your input on this is a great motivator for me. So I was like, I got to get this thing going again. I got to get a video back out there so that you guys can help me get moving. So I appreciate everybody. And if you made it this far, good for you. I appreciate it. And we got more coming. So stick with me.